Okay, welcome to Atlanta RV. This is going to be a walkthrough orientation video on the Hurricane 30-foot Class A RV. If you're doing this walkthrough here at our shop, before you start, make sure you've got your paperwork and go ahead to this walkthrough checklist. That's what we'll be going through. Additionally, make sure you've got the keys to the unit, which is unit 14003 Hurricane. You're going to have the main engine key, you're going to have the door entry keys, that's the main lock, and the deadbolt lock. And then you've got some other locks for side compartments. First thing I just want to talk about, you're going to have multiple storage compartments on these RVs. They're just going to have latches that you open. Some of them have batteries in this one, some of them will be actual storage. But before you drive, you want to make sure they're all latched closed. This one here is locked. This is a small compartment here. Actual storage compartment. This is where your propane tank is. You're going to make sure your propane is turned on. This valve is actually off, which is fully clockwise. When you turn it on, you're going to turn this valve fully clockwise, and of course you can verify the level that will be recorded on your paperwork. Here we are at 3/4, which is actually full as far as the propane people are concerned. That's as much as they can fill it. So now we've got a full tank of propane and our valve is turned on. Another small compartment here. There may be some blocks of wood for leveling if you have an unlevel parking spot. Otherwise, these will just be empty. If you've gotten a all-inclusive package kit with outdoor kits, then check to see that you've got your chairs and table and grill and so forth according to the list on your kit. Let's take a walk to the other side. Another storage compartment here. This one's fairly good size. This one's locked, so we're going to need the keys. So this is a good sized storage compartment. In this one we've got our sewer hose. I'm going to go ahead and take that out because we'll need that here in a minute. This is the compartment where our actual water line connection, sewer line connection is. We're going to have the main connection here. It's got a cap on it. Take that cap off. Then we grab our sewer hose. The sewer hose is a bayonet style connection on one end, and that's where it connects to the RV. In some cases you may have a little latch to hold these compartments open. We're going to put this on here and then it twists to lock, so it's on securely. Then we're going to take this end of the hose and it's going to go into the connection on the ground if you have a full hookup site. What you can do, some of these are threaded, this one's not, but this will go down in there, and now you can open your valves. If your tanks are full, having used them on your trip, you can empty them by first doing the black water tank, which is the larger of the two pipes, and then the smaller one is what they call the gray water tank. So you've got, so first you're going to empty your black water tank by pulling this valve outward and letting it drain. When it's done draining, it's a good idea to go back inside and fill the bowl, toilet bowl with water and flush. Fill the toilet bowl a second time and then flush. Once that's done, then you can close this valve back. Then you can empty the gray water tank, which is going to come from your sinks and your showers. You're going to pull that valve straight out, and that's going to drain the gray water tank. And once that's done, then you can close this valve back by pushing straight in. And then you can pull your hose off. Typically you're going to leave it connected at the ground, and now you can take the water source at the campsite and rinse the hose back out. Shake it out, drain it real good. But then you can take your hose, put it back in the storage compartment. Then you're done with draining the water. You're going to want to do that when you get ready to leave your campsite, or if you haven't done it at your campsite, usually you can go to a dump station at a truck stop or at a rest stop. A lot of states have those. The rest of your connections are going to involve your fresh water hookup, which on this unit is done right here, city water connection. Pull this cover off. Your city water hose is going to connect right here. You should have a hose in the unit. In this case, it's stored here. So you're going to take your hose out. You're going to connect one end of your hose to the city water connection at your campsite, and then you're going to take the other end and you're going to hook it up to the RV, which is going to go on like so. There should be a rubber gasket in there, and it should seal up tight. You turn on the water, it really shouldn't leak. If you get a small drip, you know, that's one thing, but if the little rubber gasket is falling out, a lot of times you can just get those at the campground store or whatever. The hose itself, on the other end, this is the hose, but this is a pressure regulator. Every hose should have a pressure regulator mounted on the end where it connects to the faucet. This reduces the pressure in the hose and in the RV to less than 40 or 45 psi, which keeps the hose from breaking and keeps the interior pipes from breaking. On this unit, it has a fresh water tank, and if you want to fill the tank, this is for potable water only. You open this, and now you're going to take your hose from here, with it off, of course, and you can hold it up to here, and you can fill that tank up until it's full. When it's full, it'll pour back out right by the hole. You might have to turn the water down a little bit. If you have it on full pressure, it may not all go in there and a lot spills out. But once you're done, you can close this back, and now you've got fresh water for use while you're not at the campground, while you're out on the road. This unit has a drain right here. This drain should be in the position you see now. If you open that drain up, that's for winterizing purposes, and it allows water to drain out. I'm draining the water from the tank right now, so I don't want that. I leave it in this other position. All right, and you put this cap back on. Next thing we're going to talk about is the electrical hookup. Electrical hookup, you're going to use this power cord here. It's a 30 amp style RV connection. This is the end that goes into the RV, and as you'll see, one leg actually has a little extra tab on it, so you got to line that up properly to the right tab. It goes all the way in and then twists slightly. Then this is a strain relief you can screw on, which holds it on securely. The other end is going to be your 3-prong 30 amp connection. This is where it plugs into the campground. All right, this connection here is just 120 volts, but it's rated for 30 amps. When you get to your site, there's going to be a little metal housing that has your electrical connections. There will be a 30 amp connection there like this, and there may also be a standard 115 volt 15 amp connection as well. But make sure to plug this into the 30 amp And then there's also going to be a breaker right next to that. Make sure that breaker's turned on. I get a lot of calls, people plug in, they don't have any power. It's because the breaker at the campground is not turned on. In the instance that you're at a place where you don't have a 30 amp connection and you need a 15 amp connection like this, then we provide an adapter. We may provide an adapter. This is not a standard part of the package, but often we have one on board. If you need one, you can always buy one at Walmart or at the campground store. You can buy one here at our store if you want one. But this gives you an adapter. You plug it on. It now allows me to plug into a standard home style 15 amp connection. Now that's not going to be enough power to run everything on the RV. It'll allow you to run your lights, it may charge the battery, probably won't be able to run the air conditioner, but sometimes if you're going somewhere other than a campground, that can come in handy. One more thing on these latches on the cabinets, the compartment doors, I wanted to show you was when you open these compartment doors, basically the way they hold closed is with this little latch here. So when you close it, it's got to catch and twist, and then you can usually tug on it and make sure it's holding well. But when the doors are open, you've got these little retainer latches up top that hold it open. Notice they're just plastic, there's nothing fancy to them. But if you just pull this down, it'll break them. So you want to make sure to release that before you close the compartments. In some cases, we don't have those latches. For instance, this one is right in front of the furnace. So this gets very hot as the exhaust where the furnace comes out. Alright? So if you were to hold this open for some reason, it would get overheated and catch on fire. So this one does not have a hold open latch. Covered the water and the electrical, but there's also on these, there's a utility shower outdoors. Now on many of our units we disable these because they're a common point of failure, particularly for water leaks. But I'm going to show it to you right now anyway. When you open that up, it's just a water hose, and there's faucets in there. You just want to make sure those are closed before you, and kind of packed in there. Close it up. You may have, in this case, you've got electrical outlets right here. You've got exhaust right there from your main engine, and of course you've got your tires. On the tires here, you've actually got trim rings, and then you've got your connections here for refilling the tires with air and checking the pressures. In this case, they're brought out in a nice fashion where they're easy to get to. Next we'll talk about the generators. This unit has an onboard electric generator that gives you 120 volt power to power things like the air conditioner, recharge the batteries, the microwave, etc. If you're dry camping, which means you're camping without connections at a non-campsite, say race or festival, then you want to be able to run the generator to get power. It's located here. Now normally you're going to be able to start it and stop it from inside the unit, and I'll show you how you do that. But this is the access panel for maintenance and for checking. Inside here, you've got a green plastic cover, and you can open that by twisting these latches and it pulls off. Notice this is an Awning 4000, that's 4,000 watts. The exhaust comes out right here. The things you need to know about these generators is that there's an oil dipstick. Let me get this latch. The oil dipstick is right here, and it's yellow, and it says oil on it. Well, it says hot with the oil symbol. When you open that up, you can see the dipstick. There's a textured area in the middle. It should be at the top of that textured area. Importantly, when the RV is parked reasonably level, which it is right now. So that oil is at the proper level. And that needs to be checked every day. The second thing is just a general visual inspection. If you've had an issue with the generator, does everything look normal? Is the air filter in place? Is the dipstick in place? Is this switch, this valve here for the fuel, is it turned on? Right in line with the hoses is on. Now here's a start-stop button here, and I can press and hold this to start the generator. Sometimes when you start it, you need to prime it first. And the way you do that is you press the stop side and hold it for 30 seconds or a minute, sometimes as long as it takes. Particularly if you've run the unit very low on fuel. If you run it below a quarter of a tank. Below quarter tank, it shuts the generator off. So if you've run the fuel below a quarter tank, it may take a few times to prime it to get it to run. One important thing on here is the circuit breaker. Just to the side of the start switch, over here on the side, there's a small switch. It's a breaker, circuit breaker, and that provides all the power from the generator to the RV through that breaker. If that breaker is turned off, you won't have any power, any 120 volt power. So on this, you need to make sure it's pulled towards the front. If it's tripped, it'll kind of be halfway and wiggly. If it's off, it'll be all the way to the back. But you can reset it by pushing it off and pulling it back on. When all of that's done, you want to put this cover back on. It catches at the bottom, and then each of these two closes. And then again, get our latch, and then close our compartment. Here in the water heater compartment is where your gas line comes in and your ignition circuit is. Gas line goes through a valve, flame comes through here, or the gas comes through here, and the igniter comes off of this probe here, and then this is the actual control board. When you fire this thing, this will go tick, 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 and then you'll hear the gas going. There's a water plug, a drain plug here that should be installed in tight, should not be leaking. And then this is an emergency pressure and temperature overflow valve. This should not be leaking either. If it has a small drip, that's not a big deal, but if it's leaking severely, please let us know. But that can be adjusted with this little lever here. The most important thing to know about the water heater is that it does get hot, and it's right here by the entry door, so you want to be careful of that when it's running. Alright, next thing up here, we're not going to go in there right now, but this is where the refrigerator back panel is. This is where the actual controls for the refrigerator are. If you were to have any questions about the refrigerator and called for help, this is where I would have you look, and we would go from there. This is our main entry door. When I open my main entry door, the power step will come in and out automatically. It actually works in two modes. This first mode, it goes in and out every time you open and close the door. Inside on the wall, we have a switch. It says entry step, entrance step. And when that step is in the off position, now the step will come out when I open the door, but it will remain out every time I close the door. That's handy when you're actually at the campground, so that it's not going in and out all the time. So when you're standing here opening the door, it tends to kick you in the shins, which isn't any fun. Your door, let's talk about your door locks. Here's your keys. And your door locks, you've got one key, this one, that's going to be the main lock. Put it in, and there's a lock and unlock symbol. Lock, the door handle stays in place. Unlock, the handle opens. And then additionally, the larger one is for the deadbolt. And the deadbolt you can turn to lock or unlock. So now we can open the door. When you open the door, there's a little latch here that you can attach it. So if it's a windy day, it'll hold the door open for you. Additionally, you've got a screen door. The screen door has its own release, and you can close the screen door independently. Latch it back to the door. It'll normally open and close with the door. From the inside, you've got lock levers right here and here. And then, of course, from inside to open the door, you pull on that lever. The control panel I was telling you about is right in here. And this guy right here, that's your entry step button. And then these are battery disconnect switches. These two lights should normally be on. These are disconnects for both the chassis battery and the coach battery, the chassis being the engine, for instance, and the coach being everything else, your lights and your fans and all the other DC, 12-volt DC systems in the coach. These, because of their location, they're easy to hit by accident, and if you do, those lights go out. So you want to make sure you press on the top and those lights are on. We're showing you the awning here. This unit currently has an awning on it. However, the awnings are subject to very ease of destruction. They're easily damaged, and by contract they're not allowed for customer use. If you need external shade, we do have available 10 by 10 portable folding canopies that are included in our all-inclusive packages. But that being said, we need to make sure that it's closed up, that these latches are in, that it's all the way up against there, that these are down, that it's attached here at the bottom. It should remain this way throughout your trip. Let's take a look in the back. We've also got a ladder. There's ladders on the backs of these units, and the ladders, again, are really not for customer use. The ladders allow us to get on the roof for maintenance. They're not for customers to climb on the roof for seeing things better or for letting kids play. It's too dangerous. The ladders are not terribly strong, and the roofs in particular are easily susceptible to damage because it's a thin layer of rubber over wood and steel. So nobody is allowed on the roof. That's a surefire way to damage the unit and lose any deposit that you've put down. We do have on each unit a tow bar. These tow bars are installed by the manufacturer. However, towing anything behind these units incurs an additional risk of liability to us and to you, and therefore towing is not allowed unless it has been pre-approved and allowed, and a fee has been collected for towing. In that case, the maximum towing capacity is 3,500 pounds, but we strongly discourage towing with rental RVs. All right, back here I just want to talk about the driving experience a little bit on these RVs. For the most part, when you're in the driver's seat and you're going down the road, it drives like a car. It's just a big one. It's taller, it's longer, it's wider, and it's heavier. It takes longer to stop and so forth. So you need to keep that in mind. But one particular danger on these RVs is what we call tail swing. If you'll notice, the distance between the bumper and the rear axle is about 10 feet or more. 10 feet. That means that if you steer sharply with the steering wheel and the front moves quickly, the rear will swing. This tail can swing about 4 feet when you turn sharply. So the biggest issue we have is with people hitting things with the rear bumpers because they didn't take into account that tail swing. So that being said, we always recommend parking 4 feet away from any object that you're in danger of hitting. This applies to your campground and picnic tables and posts and trees, and it applies in particular to gas station pumps because we get a lot of damage between the rear wheel and the rear bumper in gas stations. First thing I want to cover now that we're inside the unit is just a few safety items. The RV is going to have smoke detectors that are mounted typically on the ceiling. In this case, it's right above us, right here. The second thing that they're going to have is a carbon monoxide detector, which in this RV is mounted right here by the sink. Just below it, you're going to have a propane detector. Any of these detectors will help save you. So the propane is for propane leaks, carbon monoxide is for carbon monoxide buildup, and of course smoke detector for smoke and fire. Additionally, you'll have a fire extinguisher on board. And then let's talk about emergency exits. Of course, the main entry door that my cameraman is standing in right now is the main way in and out of the RV. But additionally, all of your major windows that are larger, like this one here, can be used as an emergency exit in the event of an emergency. In the bedrooms in particular, there's usually one of the larger windows, and it will have red release handles on the side, and the entire window will swing up out of the way. Next thing we'll talk about is the HVAC systems for comfort. Up on the wall here is we've got the actual thermostat. and this is going to control temperature for my cool, which is my air conditioner, which is mounted in the roof, or heat, which is my furnace, which typically comes out by the floor. I've got fan selections, low, and high, and then I've also got a just fan only that I can switch on. The AC, when I put it in the cool position, that's only going to work when you have 120 volt power. You must be plugged in at a campground, or you must have the generator running for the air conditioner to work. The air conditioner itself is mounted right above our head, and you've got this grill here, which is both an intake and also air comes out these holes here. But typically what you'll see is if we open these vents, all the air blows out right here. So what you really want is for these to be closed, and that forces the air to go out through the ceiling and come out in the various ducts that are located here in the ceiling, all the way from the front to the rear of the coach, including the bedroom. The RV is going to have roof ventilation as well, and these are typically 14-inch square, and you crank them open with the handle like so. That'll allow you some, hot air to get out while you're parked and camping somewhere. It will let rainwater in, so you want it closed if it's raining. Additionally, you must close it prior to driving, because those covers are just flimsy plastic and they'll break in the wind as you drive down the road. So please make sure those are closed. There's one here, there's one in the bedroom, and there's usually one in the bathroom. Alright, we're going to talk about the kitchen now. Our primary appliance in the kitchen, of course, is our stove. It's a gas stove, 3 burners. You're going to turn it, make sure these are off when you're not using it, but when you go to light it, turn it to light, and then using a camp style lighter, light it just like so. You can then adjust the power up or down as you see fit. All 3 work the same way. If you'd like to use the oven, if you'd like to use the oven requires you to light a pilot light. There's a pilot light that goes into the pilot light on position, and then you get down below. And the pilot light itself is back in the back. I'll point with this. Right about here is the pilot light, and I press and hold my flame right by the pilot light, and then I'm going to press and hold this button. With it in the pilot light on position, I press and hold on the button. And now that it's lit, I can actually see a blue flame in the very back there. It's very small, but that blue flame is on, and after I hold it for 30 seconds or so, I should be able to let go of the knob, and now the pilot light stays lit. Now to turn the oven on, I simply turn it to whatever temperature I'd like, and then it will take a slight delay, but then it will fire the main burner. When it's fully lit, you'll see blue flame all along the burner. Now, when I'm done cooking and I want to go back to just my pilot on position, there's a slight detent. So now I've gone back, my main burner's off, I'm no longer cooking, my pilot light is still on. Now I'm ready to cook again. Whenever I turn it on, it's going to come out and it's going to go back to the full flame. To turn it off completely, I'm ready to travel, I'm not cooking anymore, I'm ready to go home. I turn it all the way back to the full off position. And now my pilot light goes out, my flame is out, we're good to go. The next thing we'll talk about is the hood. Up here on the hood on this one, you've got, this is where your indicator lights are. When you press the test button, it shows here the battery condition, shows the propane tank level, which is full, fresh water level, which is full. It shows the holding tank 1 and 2. I'm pretty sure holding tank 1 is your black water and holding tank 2 is your gray water. These show you the levels. The levels on these black and gray water tanks are notoriously bad in terms of being accurate because of obviously the dirty water that's in the tanks plugs up the sensors. But if it gets full, then you may see an indication here. You got a water pump switch, you turn the water pump on, and then there's an indication here, and then I've also got a hood light I turn on, I've got light underneath. Then there's a fan I can turn on by using this slide switch. Low and high and off. Turn my water pump off. When my water pump is on, the water pump gives me water pressure when I'm not at a campsite. If I'm at a campsite and I have city water pressure and my hose hooked up and my faucet turned on, I'll have water pressure at all my faucets without the pump. When I do not have those connections and I'm out on the road but I want to have pressure, I turn on the water pump, and that will allow me to have pressure. And of course I got cold and I got hot. I'm going to turn that off now. Alright, microwave. Got a microwave here and we can press it open, and inside, you know, regular old microwave. The difference with this microwave is that it requires 120 volts in the RV. It will only run when you either A, have power from shore power being plugged in a campground, or B, you have the generator running, because that's our 120 volt source. When the generator's running or you're plugged in, you should see the clock come up here. It's off right now, but you'll see this come up. Other than that, it's a standard microwave for cooking. Going back to the generator for just a minute, when you're running the roof AC and the microwave, that's typically not a good idea. The microwave pulls too many amps together with the AC. It can overcome the generator and stall it out or trip the main circuit breaker. So what we recommend is if you're running the air conditioner and it's warm, but you need to cook with the microwave and you're on generator power, turn the AC off for a few minutes, then do your cooking, and then turn it back on. Whenever you turn the AC off though, do wait about 5 minutes before you turn it back on again so the pressures can equalize in the AC. Alright, that's it for that. These are your controls for your hot water heater. So this one has two switches with a lightning bolt next to one. That's electric water heat. The one with the little flame next to it, that's the gas water heat. We recommend using the gas. If you press the start button on that, now it should turn on the water heater. And what will happen is, it's firing right now. So when you turn the water heater on, you're gonna hear some clicking, and then you're gonna hear the flame going. If for some reason that does not work and it times out, then you would have to turn it off and then turn it back on. This can happen if you run out of propane and you had it refilled. The water heater will not start back on its own. You have to turn it off and back on. Now if you're at a campground and you're plugged into shore power, then you can use the electric water heat. It's a little bit slower response than the gas, but it does save you buying propane. You don't want to use both. So if you're using electric, turn off the gas. And if you're using gas, turn off the electric. Okay? And always turn these off if you run out of water. Let's talk about the refrigerator. Over here's your refrigerator. In this case, it's a Norcold unit. The refrigerator comes in two pieces. The top is your freezer, and the bottom is your refrigerator. The way you turn it on is down here. There's a gas, there's off, gas, and auto. If we put it onto gas, then being a gas appliance, it's going to light and it's going to have a timer, and if it fails to light, much like the water heater, it's going to give us an error code. It's going to say check if flashing. So if this light here where it says gas, the yellow on steady is normal. If it's flashing, it means check it. And what check really means is make sure you got propane, make sure your valve is turned on out of the propane tank, and then try turning it off and back on. You can set your temperature, from 1 to 5 for cold to coldest, and that affects both the freezer and the refrigerator. And then if you're at campground and you're plugged in on shore power, you can put it on auto, which will choose between electric and gas, depending. If you have electric, it'll go to electric, and if you lose electric, it'll switch automatically over to gas. That's why they call it auto. Whenever you're done camping and park the unit, when you return it, you want to make sure it's empty. Don't leave a bag of ice in there, and then you can go ahead and turn it off. But leave it on your entire trip if you'd like to have cold. These typically take about 8 hours to get cold. If they've been off, it takes some time for them to cool. So it's important to leave these running. Make sure it's on gas, make sure that light is on steady, and let it go 6 to 8 hours before worrying too much about whether it's working or not. The way it works, you'll see the freezer typically get to cold first, and then the refrigerator will start to get cold. If you put stuff in that's already cold in the fridge, put stuff that's already frozen in the freezer, it'll get to temperature much, much quicker. But I don't recommend putting like a whole 12-pack of Cokes in here. At room temperature, it'll take 2 days for those to cool down. Good. All right, we're in the bathroom now. Here in the bathroom, we got two main things. We've got sink over here, standard sink, no big deal. Hot and cold running water. The only difference from home is it has a plug that has to be put in to hold water in the sink, but more likely you don't want it to be plugged up, so you can either just put it halfway or you can just set it to the side. Second thing, the shower. Shower is going to have a latch that keeps it from coming open when you're driving down the road. Undo the latch, and then these doors you typically lift slightly as you open. And then you're in the shower. From here on, you've got a basic shower. Hot and cold running water, shower hose coming up to the top. One thing that's tricky about these is that it has this little head on the top can turn. That's off, and that's spray. If that's in that position, it'll trickle a little bit, but it'll seem like you don't have any water. Make sure that's in the spray position. Also, while you're doing your walkthrough, take a look at this and make sure that the hose and everything looks good. And then let's try it. Put the water pump on for me real quick. So we turn it on the water pump. Make sure we have some. So yeah, see, that's full flow. And then when this is turned, it's barely a trickle. And in the middle, it's on its way there. Alright? Again, close it, make sure it's latched. On your toilet, you've got your toilet over here. It's a hand flush toilet by Thetford. The toilet seat lifts up and down, and there's a cover. But the flushing mechanism is over here on the side. If you pull it halfway, it runs water. And if you pull it all the way, it flushes. One thing I'd like to say about using the toilets in these RVs. The toilets are made for going number 1 and number 2. If you're going to use the toilets at all, use them for both. It's important for these toilets to have enough water and liquid to be able to drain them later. If you don't use them to put enough water in there, particularly when you flush, let it run a little bit. Run some water down in there so that the tank has water in it, so when you go to drain it, it will come out. Okay, this is the bedroom. Back here we got a queen size bed. Got a couple of cabinets for, these are hanging clothes on the right and the left. You got cabinets up above. If you have gotten an all-inclusive package and it included sheets and towels and blankets and pillows and all those things, they'll more than likely be stored in some of these cabinets. Other major storage in this one is in the bathroom. Right here in the bathroom you've got a large closet and then some large closet here where you can hang clothes, and then there's some shelves below. Oh, we didn't really talk about the lights. The lights on this, you've got light switches in various places, one here in the bathroom. The one in the middle you actually have to do at the ceiling. And the one in the bedroom up here at the ceiling. And then you do, if you have a privacy curtain that you can use that is no cost to close off the bedroom. But when you're not using that, you want to make sure it kind of accordions back together and then holds back with that snap. Also here you have a pocket door between the bathroom and the living room that opens and closes like so. please make sure that that is latched before traveling as well, so that it doesn't slide in and out as you're driving down the road. In these units, this one you have carpet. You got some linoleum, but it's mostly carpet, so you want to try to keep the carpet clean. Sleeping and living arrangements. You've got in this unit the bed in the back for two. You've got a jackknife style sofa, and this sofa opens out into a bed by lifting on the base and then folding it down like so. In my mind, that's good for one adult. Maybe two kids if they slept, you know, one way, head each direction. But then it folds back up just like that. Additionally, you have the dinette. The dinette has two sets of cushions, seating for four, and the table in the middle. The way you make this into a bed is you fold up the cushions out of the way, and then this leg below has a release lever on it and folds up, and then it pulls down away from the wall like so, and then your cushions go down like so, and you have another bed. So essentially this unit is good for like 4 people, maybe 5 if you have children. And then that'll go back up the same way. The little trick that you got to keep in mind is as you come up, there's little tabs that have to insert. Focus on that one over there. When you put this up, there's little tabs that have to go in to the slots in the wall. And then you reach underneath and grab the leg, holding the release to raise it out. And now the table is back in business. Then your cushions go back, and then we're back in dinette mode. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm in the cockpit now, and this is our driving 101. You're going to have a Ford chassis. It's got a V10 engine. This is your main engine key right here. It's just like a van, more or less. Put it in to start the engine. Now we're running. Once we're running, you can see my gauges light up. I've got battery gauge, fuel, oil pressure gauge, fuel level, and temperature. You want to keep an eye on those as you're driving. Got our speedometer, odometer. The odometer reading will be recorded at the time of your departure and the time of your return. And then of course you got a tachometer. You do have cruise control. Controls on the steering wheel, on and off. Set, XL, zoom, resume. So just like your car at home. You've got on the left side here is your light switch, rotary switch, lights, parking, and off. Make sure those are off when you're stopped. So lights, we've got a fog light switch, and we've got an auxiliary start switch. That switch is, let me turn the engine on. You have an auxiliary start switch, and what this is for is like built-in jumper cables between the house battery and the chassis and the coach batteries. The two battery systems jumper together when you press and hold this switch. So if you have one of your batteries go dead, you can use this to jump off the other one. Primarily that's going to be if the engine battery was dead, say you left the lights on and then you get ready to go and it won't start. You can press and hold this button for a minute or two and then try starting the engine. Over here you've got an hour meter for the generator. You've got the start and stop button for the generator. This is where we start our generator. Down is stop or prime. See that light comes on when I'm priming it? And then when I go to start it, I just press and hold the top. And I'm up and running. Now there's a slight delay before I get power, but it'll come up on our microwave and so forth. I'm going to shut it off for now. Air conditioner controls here, it's just like a car. Fan, temperature, select, vent, max, etc. You got a radio here. That's about it. You do have an emergency brake down here. that you can press with your left foot, and then it has a release that you really got to reach up underneath, directly above, to release. Make sure that's off. When you have the key on and its brake set, you'll have the brake light over here. You want to make sure that goes out when you release that lever. Okay. Your transmission, you've got reverse, neutral, drive, 1 and 2, pretty much just like a car. If you are in the mountains, it's a good idea to press this overdrive button, which takes it out of overdrive, keeps it in a higher RPM, helps you for descending hills and for going up hills by keeping the revs up and increasing engine braking. Alright, when we're driving this vehicle, we talked about safety a little bit while we were outside, but let's review that. When you're driving this vehicle, you've got good visibility out of large windows, and it's great for driving down the road. However, when you're in a situation where you need to back up, when you need to move in tight spaces, you're probably going to have somebody with you. We recommend to use a spotter anytime you're in tight areas and always when you're backing. So open your windows, both sides, have them outside, and as you're backing up, listen. And if they say stop, stop. So the other thing when you're driving, you want to keep in mind the width of this vehicle. If you go into an area where there's very tight spaces, like for instance you go to Florida and you go through some toll booths, the toll booths will be a very narrow, kind of intimidating spot. The mirrors are the widest unit, the widest part of the unit. And as long as you clear the mirrors and you're going in a straight line, you're going to make it through. Don't panic and turn in the middle of it. If you made it with the mirrors and you're going straight, you're going to make it through. Once you've cleared the mirrors, then you can watch it in the mirrors to make sure that you're doing fine on the way through. Height. We tell people 13 foot on the height. That's a little bit higher than what it really is, but 13 feet or above, you can go through. If it's 13 or less, don't go through. You need to find a different way. This happens sometimes when people go up to the mountains and they want to go see sightseeing areas, and then there might be a tunnel here or there. Particularly around Chattanooga, there's a tunnel that you cannot make it through in one of these vehicles. Okay, the other thing is driving in traffic and stopping distance. This is a big vehicle and it doesn't stop very quickly. You got a long stopping distance with this heavy weight, and you want to make sure to leave yourself lots of extra room. It's a large vehicle, and most people that rent them aren't used to it. So use your mirrors, use your brakes, leave yourself plenty of room, and then you should be fine. We're going to talk about the leveling jacks. In most places that you go, if you stay at a campground, they're going to be pretty level and you will not need the leveling jacks. So if you do go to a place where it's uneven terrain and you do need to level the unit, which is important for just comfort but also for proper operation of, say, the refrigerator, it does have built-in leveling jacks. I'm going to walk you through how that works. The first thing that you need to do is you're going to need the keys, because the engine has to be on and running. Second thing you're going to need is the parking brake is going to need to be on, and I've hit it over here. Remember, we had our release and we set the parking brake light on. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on the HWH hydraulic leveling system by pressing the level button or the on button. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get all the jacks down on the ground. So we're going to press raise up on the front first, and we're going to run that until we feel it touch the bottom, until we feel it touch the ground. Alright, there we go. Now they've both touched down. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the rear of the coach. You have to get them all touched down, and then we'll worry about actual leveling. Okay, now I've got all four touched down. You'll notice that all the red lights are on. There's a red light for each jack that indicates that it is not up. It doesn't mean it's touching the ground, but it means it is not fully retracted. But we felt them touch down, so we know that they're down. Okay. Alright, now that I've got the jacks all touching down, The next thing I'm going to do is actually level the unit. I've got bubble indicators here and here. So now that they're all touching down, if I raise my left side, then I can move that level towards the middle, which is right here. Okay, that's pretty good. And my side to side shows my front is slightly low. So I'm going to raise the front a little bit more. And sometimes when you do one or the other, it kind of affects, you know, so here I want to raise my left side again a little bit more. One of the tricks is there's only so much travel in the things, in the jacks. So you may have to lower back down and start over again if you've gone too far on one side or one front and back. But we're pretty close now. Let's see. I can lower it. If I use the down button, it'll actually lower the side. So I'm lowering the right side slightly now. And that's pretty abrupt because it's just bleeding off pressure. It doesn't use the pump. So now I'm level side to side and I'm pretty level front to rear, so I'm good. Now I just turn that to off. I turn my engine off and I'm ready to camp. Nice and stable on the jacks. The next thing we'll talk about is storing the jacks. With our engine running again and our parking brake set, now I can hit with it in the off. All these lights are off. I hit the store button and now it's going to release pressure from all 4 jacks and lower the unit back to the ground. And then over a period of a minute or two, or if it's cold weather, maybe 20 minutes, the jacks themselves are going to start to retract. They go down with hydraulic pressure, but they only come up with spring pressure. So it may take a little longer for them to come up than it took to get them down originally. The red lights on the 4 corners of the unit on this diagram indicate that those are not up. We're going to wait until those go out. One's out now. We're going to wait until all 4 of those red lights are extinguished before we're able to drive the unit. And again, it may take a few minutes. The colder it is, the more. There is also another indication light over here where it says jacks down. This is basically looking at any one of those lights being on causes that light to be on. So if you see that light, look down. You can see which jack hasn't come up yet. Now we've got a second one up. We still got 2 more to wait for on the back. So hopefully that'll be done here in just a minute. You can cut it. We're in front of the RV now. I want to show you the engine access so that we can check the oil. You're going to use this special key. I call it a Coke machine key. To unlatch each side. And then the hood will raise up out of the way. And then once you're in here, you're going to have access to the oil dipstick, which is here. And you want to pull that out. It's very long. And then I can look at my level. It's going to be between the 2 holes right there on full, and then of course max is up here, so it should be just right like that. And then you're going to want to put this back in. Additionally, if you have to add oil, don't overfill it, but if you have to add oil, you're going to remove this cap that says engine oil. It's up here. You're going to add oil from right there. You can visually check the coolant level here, and it's at the full level right now. And then this cap above it should be screwed on nice and tight. Click like so. The engine battery is down here to the left. You shouldn't have to do anything with that battery, even if it dies, and use those internal jumper cables we talked about with the button on the dashboard, but it's good to know where it is. And then if you want to check the transmission fluid, this is the dipstick for that. Now typically with transmissions, you have the engine running while you do it, and you check this level, and you're going to see it somewhere in this hot range or in this cold range. is where that should be. Of course, you got to pull it out, wipe it, reinsert it, and then check it. You need to get into this, but this is the power distribution box that's by Ford. So these are chassis related fuses under here. And then up above that, you've got another panel, which is coach related fuses that we can find up here. They shouldn't have any issues, but if I asked you to check some fuses, these are the places where you'd be looking. Okay, one last thing. Located under the bed on the right hand side is where our electrical circuit breaker panel is. It's a small brown panel, and it's going to have a small release on the very top. You twist 90 degrees, and then you're going to have circuit breakers and DC fuses. And then you've got a list of what those are for right here. So if you have any circuit breakers tripped, this is where you look for them. And here is the ground fault circuit interrupter circuit. All of the electrical outlets in the RV are tied through this. So if this is tripped, when you press test and reset, that's going to test and reset those outlets. If you have any particular outlet in here that's not working, you want to make sure that this is properly reset. It'll only reset if you have 120 volt power coming to the coach and the breaker down under the bed is turned on. We appreciate your business here at Atlanta RV, and we hope you have a good trip. The one thing that we realize is you've been given a lot of information in a short period of time. We encourage you to go back and watch portions of this video again if you need to. We also encourage you to look over the paperwork that you get at checkout, because there's a lot of important information on there on problems that may occur and ways to deal with those. And most importantly, at the very top of the front page of your paperwork on the main contract page, it has the 888 number to our business, and it has a extension 3 for technical service. If you have any questions or problems while you're on your trip, we encourage you to call us so that we have the opportunity to help you. We'd much rather have the opportunity to help you than have you be confused. Don't be afraid that it might be a dumb question, as there's really not any dumb questions on something that you're not familiar with. So give us a call. Most issues that you have, we can help you take care of remotely. In the event that there's a problem that we cannot help you with remotely, we will find you somebody, or at least direct you in the right way to find somebody that can help you while you're out on your trip. Look forward to seeing you on your return, and have a great time.